What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, and this is the Wolf of All Streets podcast. Today's guest is a well-known artist that's blended his passion for traditional painting and technology to push the limits of digital art. Not only are his creations masterfully designed, but they have engaged viewers in a new way that seems straight out of a futuristic film. Trevor has begun to tap into the crypto art space, specifically NFTs. His art is now the most sought after and, frankly, expensive in the space. I actually have a bit of experience in this area, releasing my own NFTs at a very much lower level, but can't wait to learn from the master himself, Trevor Jones. Trevor, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's quite the intro.
Yeah, we try. So before we get into the questions, once again, you're listening to the Wolf of All Streets podcast, where twice a week I talk to your favorite personalities from the worlds of Bitcoin, finance, trading, art, music, sports, and politics. The show is powered by Blockworks Group, a media company with over 20 podcasts in their network. You can check them out at blockworksgroup.io. If you like the podcast, you follow me on Twitter, then you should check out my website. Think about joining my newsletter. You can do both those things at thewolfofallstreets.io. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get on to what's important. So Trevor, you wrote a checklist for success for artists that was really popular. And one of your tips stood out to me. It was number 60. It said, drink wine often. Do you have additional insight into this tip? Because I'm really ready to take my art career to the next level.
I think I actually mentioned it twice. I think that was actually two tips, the same one. It was just a lighthearted joke in a sense. Possibly. I do drink a lot of wine, but
as do I.
I think with this checklist, it's more like I call it like a tips, artist tips for success, because as soon as you start putting out something like this, you're immediately going to have people who are going to try to contradict it or to say that's wrong or this. So for me, it wasn't about, I was honestly trying to create a list from my own experience of things that have helped me or that I've learned along the way that could potentially help others kind of getting into this space or getting into art in general. But inevitably there's people going like, I don't think I agree with that thing exactly. And I was like, I said also, just take what you want and leave the rest. Whatever helps is great. So, and wine is one that helps me a lot. Especially
helps me a lot in a lot of avenues. I found that it became much more helpful when I have children, but that's a topic for another day, I guess.
My wife showed me the little clip. Was it yesterday with the howling at the moon? It was so cute. I'm like, that's so cute.
Like that 1.5-year-old is such a perfect little. It's just a perfect age for cuteness. It's unbelievable with kids. So I have to ask, a lot of people feel that they're born an artist, or some feel that it's a hobby they pick up in high school and realize they're kind of good at it. As you know, I've had Micah Johnson on the podcast, before on the podcast, and he had never tried art until he was already a professional baseball player. Now he's also one of the biggest artists in the space. So what was your development like as an artist? When did you realize that this is what you wanted to pursue and was your passion?
I was always good, when I was going through school, and I think most kids, they all love to draw and create things, and there's just no pressure. And then kind of hit high school, you become a teenager and the insecurities come in. But, for me, I took art in high school because it was easy, not because I was thinking I was going to be an artist.
Right.
I'm more interested in sports and music and parties and that kind of thing. So I left, high school. I graduated and I didn't go straight to university. I was moved to Vancouver to become a rock star, and that failed miserably. I learned a lot of lessons through that process, and that actually helped me become an artist later in life. So for me, I knew that there was talent there. I could draw what I saw. But being an artist, it's not just being able to draw what you see. And to be honest, actually even nowadays, there's so many different components and elements. What kind of art you're creating? Is it digital? Is it physical? Is it conceptual? So being able to draw is one, I think it helps, because when you have something in front of you, whether it's a person, figure, or a still life, or a landscape, and you're literally just drawing it, you're getting to understand what that thing is, that object, what it is from a very, very different level than just by looking at it. and you're also developing your own personal language. And that's what art is. You know, you have these different genres, but every person has a different approach, different techniques, different mark making abilities and skills. Some are good with color. Some people are good with drawing what they see more representational. So everybody has different skills and abilities. I guess it's just the biggest, the most difficult part is learning how to get over the insecurities and to really drive forward with your work, and to just blind faith and hope that it keeps on working out and that you keep on developing. So it's practice. I taught for 7 years at a little art school, private art school for after I graduated. And it was adults I was teaching, like kind of evening classes and weekend workshops, Saturday afternoon life class. And 99% of the people who were coming to the class, they weren't coming to become artists. They were, bankers, lawyers, doctors, nurses, who wanted to get away from the family for a couple hours or, explore something different. So I saw, really how people could improve. Some had literally no artistic skills at all, but they kept on coming back, week after week, month after, some would come for years, and they did learn. So you can learn to become a better artist. But I think with something like singing or, playing a musical instrument, some people are just gifted. Some people have a gift, and they will always have the advantage because they just have something, a God-given gift.
But what's interesting is there's millions of people who can sing. There's millions of people who are masters at instruments. You can go on YouTube, arguably, and find people with 100 views that probably appeal to you more than the music that's on the radio. So how do you actually make it a career and a success as opposed to just a hobbyist who never gets noticed?
That's the secret. And there's no formula, there really isn't, unless you're talking about a formulaic boy band or something and Simon Cowell puts millions into it. But,
and then you don't actually get paid anyways. So
when I was a late starter in the sense that I was 32 when I decided to become an artist. So I learned from my experience as a failed 19-year-old musician trying to make it big and with 80s ballads in Vancouver that awesome. I had to approach this in a very different way than I'm really passionate about it. I'm willing to put in the time, but I had to look at it as much more of a strategic approach because I was going to be 38. When I did a foundation year, I did 5 years at Edinburgh College, split between Edinburgh College of Art, studying drawing and painting, and at Edinburgh University, studying history of art. So I was coming out at 38 years old with no money, a lot of student loans, massively in debt, and nothing really to go with, except just pure drive and determination and the ability to sacrifice. And that was it. I knew I didn't have a second chance. I wasn't 23 years old and graduating. I didn't have, it was this or nothing. And to be honest, my first 2 solo shows, it was 2008 when I graduated. 2010 was my first solo show. So by kind of all things considered, that was a huge success to be a recent art school graduate and to have a solo exhibition at a mid-range Edinburgh gallery. The show was a huge success. I sold probably about 80% of the works. I was scared shitless, opening night, even like on the run up to the exhibition. In my head, I was thinking, I can't do this.
I'm going to sell nothing, right? I'm going to sell nothing. I'm going to show up. There's going to be 3 people there. Oh God, dude. I've played music my whole life. It's terrifying every time. It's not even scary to go perform. It's just scary to wonder if anybody will be there to see it.
Yeah. And you have all that self-doubt and insecurity. And I was ready to quit. And then the show happened. It was a big success. And then the reality hit me is that, I sold, like I said, about 80%, which was fantastic. It was a huge, huge success. My prices were at that kind of low-end price range of a student, recent art graduate. I think I sold about 25,000 pounds worth of paintings, which again, I'm like, this is brilliant, fantastic. Yeah. And then, you realize, okay, the gallery takes 47, 50%. So that's immediately cut down to about 13, 12,500.
And taxes.
I pay for the framing, which 2,500, 3,000 for framing. I'm down to 10 grand. Then there's that was a full year's work. So I've got studio costs, I've got overheads, business, all the materials, all that kind of thing. And so by the end of that first huge, super successful exhibition, I had about maybe £7,000 profit, which I had to pay taxes on. Not very much because it was so low.
Right.
So I realized at that point that, okay, I'm going to have to look at this in a very different way to separate myself from all those other super talented artists out there. And Scotland's a small country, and you go through the system, and it's like I said, I was working at an art college at a little art school. I was running an arts charity, so I knew so many artists who were ridiculously talented, and were still struggling. And I'm thinking, like, how can I make a living doing this? And that's kind of where my checklist or my tips for success came about. And it's just, man, it's like I said, there's no formula. It's just hard work and motivation and obsession, almost sacrifice, to the point where it cut into all other aspects of my life. I didn't have relationships,
Tough,
I'm sure you know what
tough on
about.
a wife. You need an exceptionally, I believe that was actually one of your tips, was a supportive partner, right? Something to that effect, I remember. And I get it. I remember my wife being like, "Yeah, you coming home this week?"
Well, Violet, my wife, we've been together for 5.5 years now, and she was basically the first one to be able to put up with my shit. So, give her credit. And she's stuck with me from the point when I was literally, putting on exhibitions and just making enough to pay the bills for the next exhibition. So you got to have that supportive partner to really be able to lift you up through those tough times.
Yeah, it's incredible. So you touched on, you said, we were talking about what kinds of art there are and what you could be. And you said physical, digital, conceptual. You're all of them, right? In my mind, from looking at your art and seeing at least where it's evolved to, it seems that you've found a way to incorporate basically all of the senses, every aspect of possibility, and that you're sort of pushing the envelope. So how did you go from hanging your paintings in an exhibition to these incredible interactive pieces?
Interestingly, and it was through music, because obviously I was interested in music and played in a really shitty bands when I was younger. But I was interested in my degree show in 2008 was basically split between huge red abstract paintings, mostly red, and huge blue abstract paintings. And I was investigating the response, the physiological response that humans have to color. So that got me interested in how we respond to imagery in general. My dissertation at the university was kind of investigating the connection between landscape painting and the healing process, how we respond to our natural environment. And then in my second year after art college, I started looking into synesthesia, which is the mixing of the senses. So some musicians can actually see colors while they're playing, the guitar or their music, or, you might be able to, see letters of the alphabet as colors. There's all these different types of phenomenon of mixing of the senses. So my first exhibition, solo show, was literally using one song, a contemporary Scottish song. I had about 16 to 18 of them, and listening to that song over and over and over and over on my iPod back in the old days, until I created some kind of abstract representation through color and mark making that for me represented that particular song.
Interesting.
And I did that for the whole exhibition. And then the exhibition itself, we had MP3 players at the front desk, and people could then listen to each song that was the inspiration for that particular painting. Really, it was cool. A bit of a gamble because, I thought somebody might really like the painting, but then they listen to the song and they hate the song.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to buy that, but I like the concept of it. And Then my second exhibition, again, the second solo show, was looking at a particular classical artist, 19th century composer. And on the run up to that show, that was 2009, 2011. I started to see QR codes around. I didn't know what they were, so I was like, this is interesting, a box or whatever. So then I started to research QR codes, which then immediately, even before the exhibition just started, I was thinking, I wonder if I can paint these. This is a really cool idea where people will then engage with a painting in a completely different way than they normally do. And I think that's where, I've always been interested in, maybe because my dad was a mechanic. He was a heavy-duty mechanic, and he liked to fix things and solve problems, and he was that kind of a person. And with paintings, it's such a abstract response, how people have some kind of emotional response to this painting, but not that one, and something, and the other. So I was interested in why do people respond to paintings? How can I find ways to increase engagement with the painting? Firstly, through music and headphones to listen to the song, then through QR codes and scanning it to see what's behind that painting, and then into augmented reality in 2013. So it's been this constant for the last 10 years, kind of balancing act of trying to create paintings that are, to me, that I'm passionate about, that mean something to me, but somehow incorporating technology in a way that can maybe push it to another level or help people engage with or tell the story in a different way, completely change the meaning of a painting through the technology that's being used. And then when NFTs came along, this NFT marketplace, all of a sudden it opened up an entirely new door for me, because I could then look at animations, like Picasso's Bull, and I could play around with, for my 2018 exhibition, it was all augmented reality paintings, crypto disruption. Each painting was representing some aspect of the crypto space. And then I produced short little videos that kind of told another story about that painting, that you scan the painting. And then with some of them, I've taken them to another level, creating animations. So really those paintings become three different things. There's a physical painting, there's a video that produces or creates another storyline, byline behind it, and then there's an animation that adds another element to it. And it's just with this. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, do you produce all of those? I was wondering, do you actually you edit video, you produce the video? I mean, you literally do all of it?
I was doing all the videos and editing them and soundtracks and that kind of thing. But with the animations, I have done and that has been quite interesting as well. There was that's how the whole Jose Delbo exhibition
dropped. Oh my God, that thing, man.
It was crazy.
So amazing.
Crazy.
So sick. That's the Batman for anyone who hasn't seen it, but you have to. Oh, man.
So my first NFT drop was with Money Alata in December of last year, and we did a collaboration, and he used one of my paintings, Ethereum girl with a mandolin, Picasso inspired painting with a big Ethereum logo in it. He basically animated it. I gave him some basic ideas of what I'd like to see, and then he created his magic with it. And what I realized at that point is that it was a huge success, 70 ETH, smashed all records. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was phenomenal, blew my mind. And then I thought, okay, well, where do I go from here? I can't learn these skills that Money Alata has in 2 months or even a year. And I'm a painter, and I don't want to compromise my painting as well. I want to keep on developing my skills as a painter and work on the ideas and the concept behind them. So then that's when I started hiring people to create the animations for me. So I would do all the grunt work in Photoshop. I would take my paintings apart and create the layers, and then I would give all that information to somebody else, and I'd give them a brief and say, okay, I want this to happen and this happen. And then, and they'd send it back and say, okay, fix that, change that. And what it turned into was a really big, once people found out that this is what I didn't hide the information, because I actually wrote a blog post about it immediately after my second drop, but it wasn't common knowledge. And what happened was that there was this huge discussion debate online on Twitter about the fact that I was hiring people to create these animations for me, but I didn't credit them in the process. Which
it's always something in this community.
Yeah. So, but what that did was gave me the whole idea with Jose Delvo. And so I contacted him and said, look, I've got a really crazy idea. I want to, if it's okay with you, I would like to have one of your artworks, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do with it. I'm not going to say anything. You're just going to have to trust me, and let's see what happens. And he was crazy enough to say, yes, okay, let's do this. And what I did was he actually gave me two drawings. And with one of them, what I did was I just gave it with a brief to an animator, and they created the entire animation. I did nothing to it at all. I hired a musician to create the soundtrack for it. I produced the whole thing in a sense, and right. I put it on there, and I paid them, and there was no, in a sense, overly creative input from their side of things.
They just played what you told them to play, and they did what, right, of course, you produced it. Yep.
And I guess it was kind of poking the bear, just stirring it up a little bit. And this is what we dropped. And I wrote, a long article about it. It's like, and I just wanted to generate the conversation, just to kind of stimulate it and see how people responded to it. And it was, again, I had no idea it was going to be so successful.
In total, it sold for over $300,000, right? I mean,
200,000.
I thought it was 200 something, and then 100 for the original. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So it was crazy.
I mean, that'll shut them up.
It's funny. I love watching you read your DMs, and it's hilarious.
I mean, there's so much negativity in the world. The only thing I would have probably been triggered by a lot of that stuff in my younger years. At this point, it's like entertainment, and I flip it into something positive. And that's how I view art, everything in life. And it was a very troublesome for me early in music as well, because as you said, that vulnerability, no matter how tough you act, you want people to like what you put out. Right. I mean, it's, and so it's very hard, but I mean, there's nothing, as you're obviously proving, there's nothing like success to quiet those voices and sort of give you all the confidence you could ever need. But what strikes me here is, I mean, you said you sold that for 70 ETH last year. Most people in the crypto community have just heard the term NFT for the first time in the last 3 or 4 months, right? Mm-hmm. We see Ari Paul and Pomp and Jason, who I know bought the Picasso's bull, and I believe you said just received it today. So, so you're far ahead of the curve, and yet again, completely rolling the dice on something new. I mean, you could have taken all your focus and continued to solely paint, but you were willing to kind of trailblaze.
I mentioned before that when I first heard about NFTs in April of 2019, and at that point, I didn't think, I thought nothing of them. I thought, this isn't for me. It's okay, something that people are going to be using for games and et cetera, et cetera. And I create physical paintings that are related to cryptocurrency, and had the successful solo show in 2018. It wasn't until about 6 months later, I've been kind of keeping an eye on things and seeing some of the people I knew that I was following on Twitter start to sell work. And we're like, this is really interesting. And that's when I started to explore it a bit more. So it's definitely been a learning process. And, God, it moves so fast, so crazy fast. And I'm just an old guy who paints, who's not afraid of technology. I don't know what all these guys are talking about. They have different podcasts, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but I'm interested in I guess, more of a holistic approach to the whole space. And that includes the psychology of the market and the buyers and the artists and the Twitter storms of bitchiness and all these things that kind of drive this whole space. I just want to do the best I can to keep at, as much in the lead as I can. That didn't came out the wrong way, but to kind of be at a point where I know what's going on, and what I see potentially happening in a very short amount of time is that the floodgates are going to open up, And there's going to be a massive influx of ridiculously talented, big name artists with huge profiles, traditional artists as well, who are pushed and pumped by like the big international commercial galleries or the Christie's and Sotheby's, auction houses, and the billionaires and the people who are buying the Picasso paintings and the Dalis, and I'm always thinking, like, how can I navigate through this, and when this happens, that I don't get crushed by it. And so that's, I think that's an important thing for all the artists in the space right now to look at. And, I always kind of go with, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, because
I'm a traitor.
We have no idea what's going to happen. So yeah, I mean, don't get too comfortable. And that's why I don't ever want to get too comfortable. Interestingly, though, actually, two things there. I got an email from somebody about maybe 2 weeks ago, asking me, say, he's got this drop happening on Nifty Gateway, and he's really nice, and it's like, I'd like to chat to you about these things. And that was literally the day of the Batman drop, and it was just ridiculously crazy, and I was getting inundated with emails and everybody wanting something, and so I just politely said, like, good luck with the drop, and I can't really help you out, I'm a bit too busy. And then yesterday I was watching a podcast with Coldy, and he was interviewing this guy called Mike Winkleman, and I'm like, oh, the name sounds familiar. And then listen and talk some more. And there's, I think her name was Lady Phoenix, and there's the three of them having conversations. He was hilarious. He swore like a sailor. He was absolutely hilariously engaging. And then I'm sorry, and they talk about Beeple, that's his name. And I'm like, I'm going to check out who this guy is. So I'm like, checking it out. So we go to his Twitter. It's like, shit, he's got like 175,000 followers. And check his Instagram. He's got like 2 million, I don't know. And it's like, holy crap, he actually follows me. All of a sudden I scroll down and I see the video that he's dropping on NFT and on Nifty Gateway, and
he's the guy.
He's the guy. And I completely, gave him the cold shoulder. It's just like,
that happens to me all the time, actually, just because like the sheer volume, as you said, of like messages that you get. I've definitely, I sometimes joke with people how much money is just like in my being left on the table, probably in my DMs and stuff. But I mean, there's just incredible people reach out to you, and you don't have the time to like do due diligence on 100 people a day. So you just kind of miss those things. But it is an interesting, it does speak to something I definitely believe, which is that like every relationship is important, and never make an assumption when we receive a message for someone, and always, have an open mind, because I mean, what a opportunity for you if now maybe you guys will do something, it'll sell for $1 million. Who knows?
Yeah, and I actually emailed him today and said, like, dude, I'm so sorry. I actually gave the cold shoulder by accident to Tyler Winklevoss too in December, right after the ETH Girl drop, and he messaged me on Instagram. It's like, I don't even use Instagram. I'm just really bad for that. So I saw like this message 3 weeks later, all these other messages. It's usually people trying to sell me Bitcoin or something. It's like Tyler Winklevoss. Oh, that's just a fake account. I click on it. It was actually him. And I was like 3 weeks after that. So sorry, Tyler. But yeah, you have no idea. And there's just so many forms of communication these days. But another thing that I talked to Mike Beeple about today, when I messaged him back and said, I think it's important that what had really happened at that point when he messaged me, and I just politely declined to talk to him, is that I was just so overwhelmed with all the stuff that was happening. And from the Picasso's bull drop in July, just taking on more projects and constant emails and so many lovely people saying like, love your work, brilliant, et cetera. But it got to the point where about 2 weeks ago, I was really starting to feel depressed and low, and that's the point when my wife said to me, it's like, Trev, you need to take a bit of a break here, because all I do, it's like from the moment I wake up to the time I go to bed, thinking, constantly obsessed with what's going on, what's happening on my phone. And I wasn't even enjoying anything of all the amazing things that were happening. So yeah, I've been learning how to say no the last while, and just say like, I can't, I can't take anything more on. I need to push something back and spend more time with my wife and go for walks and stuff like that, because it's very easy to slip down that slippery slope, and next thing you know, you just get knocked for, and you have no idea what's happening to you.
RoundTheX.com is one of my favorite companies in the entire crypto space. What they do is take all your small purchases and round them up to the nearest dollar and invest that spare change into any of over 30 crypto assets of your choice. They integrate with your favorite exchanges so that you can view various exchange balances all in one dashboard and round up into different assets all at the same time, and they do all this without ever holding any of your Bitcoin. This is by far the best way to dollar cost average into Bitcoin. Go to roundthex.com and use the promo code WOLF for $4 in free Bitcoin after making your first roundup or purchase. That's ROUNDLYX.com and code WOLF for $4 in free Bitcoin. Diginex is making huge moves and is soon to be the first crypto exchange listed on the NASDAQ. This means that people will finally be able to invest on a platform they're comfortable with without being directly exposed to Bitcoin. Absolutely massive for mainstream adoption. Diginex has basically everything investors need under a single roof, including an institutional-grade exchange called Equus. Equus allows institutional and retail investors alike access to an exchange that's on par with platforms they've come to trust in other markets. This means they are compliant with regulation, transparent and fair with regards to fees and orders, secure and far ahead of the curve in regards to innovation. Go to equus.com/wolf to get 5% off trading fees. That's EQUOS.com/WOLF to get 5% off of your trading fees. Sign up now. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard about the DeFi craze in crypto. By far the safest and simplest way to passively earn in the space is to hold your coins on Celsius. You can earn your rewards in the same crypto you're holding, or you can earn even more in their Cell token. Right now, I choose to earn 5% on Ethereum in Ethereum and 15% on my stable coins in Cell token. It's a little bit better than the sub 1% interest rates you can earn in a legacy bank account. Celsius was founded with the belief that crypto is the opportunity to really shake up the financial system. They're changing the standards for all financial services. They share 80% of their revenue in the form of weekly reward payments. That's how their users are earning up to 15% APY with compounding rewards. They also commit to providing the lowest cost loans on the market. Their loans start at just 1% APR. For just 1% interest, you can borrow cash against your crypto and avoid selling, which also eliminates the taxable event. It's absolutely huge. High rewards on your holdings and low interest on loans on a platform whose mission you can believe in. Celsius is giving $20 to every new user that joins with promo code WOLF. Just enter the code in the app during registration. $20 is awarded after 30 days of maintaining a wallet balance of $200 or more. Visit Celsius.network, that's CELSIUS.network, and use promo code WOLF, WOLF. Stop and smell the roses. I mean, you know, it's, I can definitely, I've felt that before, you know, where like I've had some of the most successful times in my life, but I was too busy to enjoy the success. And then it was gone by the time I even became a fond memory as opposed to a great experience, and definitely don't want to live life like that. But I'm really curious about, and I think the people here will be really interested to find out, I mean, why crypto art? Why Bitcoin? When did you find Bitcoin? And I mean, deciding to do a 2018 show solely based on crypto seems kind of left field.
I had a show in 2016. It was, and that completely changed the way I looked at things. And that was my political portrait. So I painted Trump and Hillary and Boris Johnson and, you know, David Cameron and, you know, these kind of world leaders made out of garbage I'd found on the street and oil paint. And they're all augmented. I produced short little video clips of these politicians talking a lot of rubbish. And what that was about was, you know, I've been working with technology, QR codes from 2011, and then augmented reality from 2012 to 2013. And nobody in this quite conservative Scottish art market were interested in, from the gallery perspective, they weren't interested in art with a tech spin to it. So that show there with the politicians, it wasn't, I really didn't think I would sell anything. I was 10 big portraits of politicians that nobody liked. And it was simply at that kind of Hail Mary throw to get some eyes on my work with the technology and say, nobody's doing this. And what happened, funnily enough, is on the opening night, one collector, somebody came in and bought all 10 paintings.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't believe it. I was like, this was the best case scenario. It never even crossed my mind that I'd sell any of them. Because it wasn't even about that. It was about getting some media attention, a bit of publicity, and people going like, okay, this is an interesting way to create paintings with augmented reality and video. So what that did was, it, for the first time, gave me some financial stability as an artist, which rarely happens. And then from that point, the next year, 2017, it gave me a lot of confidence in the fact that I didn't need to go through commercial galleries anymore to sell work. I could actually paint things that were really important to me, maybe a bit edgy, maybe whatever that, and there would be somebody out there who would be interested in them. It was at the same time, because I had some extra money in the bank, that I started to look at different types of investments, and that led me to Bitcoin. So I bought my first, got a Coinbase account, and was like trying to figure out all my way around this. Bought some Ethereum, some Bitcoin in, I think, June of 2017. Well done. And for the next 6 months, just, went absolutely crazy. Found out I was a really, really bad trader and a much better painter. And so I thought, okay, I need to put the trading aside and focus on my painting. But what I've discovered over the last 6 months is that this is this crazy, ridiculous, chaotic, toxic world filled with personalities and ideas that I could capture in paint. But then I had no idea if there was going to be a market for it. So again, that was just another giant risk that I would spend all of 2018 working towards an exhibition, hire a gallery space, put it on myself because no gallery would take this work, and then hope that people would buy it, knowing full well that there would be probably nobody in my city of Edinburgh, that I would have to find overseas buyers. And it worked out. It was just a huge, huge gamble, calculated risk, and I ended up selling almost everything in that exhibition, which then gave me the confidence to continue down this path and explore more and make more contacts and try new things and get into NFTs. So I guess the moral of the story is take risks, and hope for the best, prepare for the worst, see what happens.
I mean, what would you say okay, I guess there's two parts. Start with someone who's an artist and wants to get into NFTs. What are the first steps? What do they need to understand? I know, obviously, and we will point people towards your already existing list of nearly 100 tips, but very brass tacks. Like, I'm an artist, I've got talent, I want to monetize that, I have a vision. Now what?
That's $1 million question. I mean,
my Twitter followers now.
First off, I think what's holding back a lot of people right now, and I know so many traditional artists here who are so talented who will never get into the space because there's just so many barriers of the technology. What's a digital wallet? How do I what's Bitcoin? And there's a fear of even wanting to know what is, like, there's that phobia of technology. But I guess first thing is like just getting to grips with technology. Get a wallet, set up an account. There's various platforms like Super Rare, No One Origin, Maker's Place, Nifty Gateway. There are more curated, but there's other ones like OpenSea or Rarible where you don't actually have to.
Yeah, you just throw it up there and
just put it up there and see what happens. And I guess, and that's where the big debates has this constant debate of scarcity versus abundance. And I'm kind of in team scarcity, and there's others who are team abundance, and there's always battles going back and forth about which is the best route to take. Again, from my experience, it's I've kind of proven that scarcity is the way to go.
You're a painter.
Not because
you're not going to paint 10 paintings. I mean, you paint one painting and you send it into the world, and
yeah. So by the nature of the work that I do, the fact that if I am creating an NFT out of it, I need to hire somebody that can take weeks of going back and forth to finally get the piece that I want. So it's a very slow process. But I think if you're just starting out, that's where the debate is. Do you just put everything out there for everybody, and mint everything, or do you only put out the absolute best of the best? And I'm of the opinion that you only put out your best work. And that may be because I've come from the traditional art background where you work all year long and you have loads of crap and you curate your best pieces and you have them in a show and you present them as in the best way possible, and everything leads up and there's a lot of pressure. But then, there's others who people say just throw everything out and get as much visibility, as many eyes on your work as possible. But then I'm thinking, well, why would somebody want to invest in you if you're just putting out everything? It'd be like me having a gallery exhibition, and putting up unfinished paintings and things that aren't framed properly, and a couple sketches on the wall with thumbtack in and putting a price on it. I think for me it's that, maybe coming from that working class background of really taking absolute pride in your work, and I would not want to sell anything that I didn't think was the best of my best, because I'd feel like I'm ripping off somebody.
And also, arguably the most valuable aspect of an NFT is the proven scarcity, right? That you can put one out, it cannot be duplicated, it can't be forged, it can't be faked. It's guaranteed to be one of one, or even one of three, or one of five, but you know it. The buyer knows it 100%. There's no question, which does not exist in the art world.
Yeah. And I've done nothing against editions. You look at Picasso's Bowl on Nifty Gateway, that drop was phenomenal, and there were editions. I did a Cubist Picasso, Cubist Satoshi edition of 21 on OpenSea. There are artists out there who who are quite prolific. For example, like Hakatao, but their work is very, very professional. It's very slick. They've got decades of experience behind them. They've built up their brand. They've built up everything. And so, there's always exceptions to the rule. I can't say this is the one way to be successful as an artist, because that's going to be wrong. Everybody has a path to get to where they want to be. But it's, I guess the only offer of advice that I've got is that it's most likely going to be a very slow path, and I'm thinking, for me, when I graduated at 38, I wasn't thinking I want to be rich and famous at all, because if you come into being an artist, thinking you're going to be rich and famous, you're going to be really, really sadly mistaken. I was thinking, how can I actually make a living as an artist? And what are the steps that I have to take to get to the next stage, And I was literally thinking decades. I want to peak at 65, 70 years old, and then live off my, my golden years, and that's it. It was never thinking about, what's happening right now to me is beyond my wildest dreams. I never, ever thought this would have happened.
I think what you just described is probably the reason that you're successful, though, because I think that most people, especially in the NFT and crypto art space, are very young, and the nature of people who are very young, myself included at that time, was, when I was in college, I thought I was a failure when I wasn't a millionaire when I graduated college, right? I thought, what's wrong with me? I should have already done this. And that impatience. And it's the same with investing in Bitcoin and trading, right? Like you said, you were a terrible trader, but if you just hold your Bitcoin for 20 years, it'll probably be totally fine. It's the same sort of mentality. But I would say that you probably had learned so many lessons in life by the time you were 38 and knew that what it took to survive, and therefore were able to be successful. So those aren't lessons you can probably pass on to a 22-year-old that they aren't going to learn on their own, right? It's just life.
Yeah. Somebody had tweeted that actually a few days ago, something like, what kind of motivation do you need as an artist to continue to create? And I responded, it's like, it really depends on so many different things, but what motivates a 22-year-old artist and what motivates a 50-year-old artist are very, very, very different things. So I guess that's, again, the problem with Twitter is that somebody throws something out there and it just riles everybody up because
It's hard to understand the context there. It's funny. I mean, my artistic journey was ending at the time that yours was beginning in my life. You know, like I had my daughter, I guess I was about 36 or 37, and I wound down my music career because I wanted to be home and parent. And that's what got me into crypto. But I think that I've been successful here because I did it when I was in my late 30s and not when I was in my early 20s. So it's funny. I was ending my artistic journey, but I think very similar sort of situation in my passion for the thing that I took on, you know.
Do you see yourself going back, like, you're doing well? Do you think, man, maybe in 5 years or something?
As a hobbyist, I think that I will like refine the passion that I had for it, because it was everything to me. And it was interesting when you were talking about your art earlier and doing it to music. It was sort of making me think about the way that I have collected memories in my life, and they're always associated with music. I don't know if that's unique to me or other people, but if you ask me, like, what was that trip like in 1992? The first thing that comes to mind is the song I was listening to on the airplane or that I heard at the club or something, and that formulates the memory. So music, I think, is deeply ingrained in me, and so I'm sure that I will come back to it in some manner, but I would never, I mean, you've got balls, man. I would never want to depend on it at this point and at this age. And music's a little different. I mean, you can age out of music, and I think as an artist, it's more like fine wine. You can do art when you're 70. You can't DJ when you're 70.
Yeah. I mean, Violet and I, we don't have children. So that's, that's a big, big, big thing, because if we did,
you can be selfish.
It'd be very, very selfish. And I don't know if I would, who knows, it's obviously life changing. So you will look at things very, very differently as soon as you have a child. And the fact that we didn't have that responsibility to think about. So we don't have expensive tastes. We like to travel, and that's, an Airbnb and budget places. And that's, we don't really have, so it was never about money for us. It's interesting, the choices that we make in life and the paths we lead.
So the flip side, there's a lot of ways that people can get into it. They can obviously choose to go the scarce route. They can choose to put everything out into the internet, but basically you just got to go and try something, right? But the flip side, I think, is probably the more interesting side to some degree, which is the space is exploding. As you said, we're seeing it explode. Likely a ton of more money is going to come in. How does someone who wants to participate, but who's not an artist, start to invest in this space? How do you make a sound investment? How do you know what's good and worthwhile or what's complete garbage? And what do you think the future looks like? I mean, there's people who are trading these like they're trading altcoins, right? They're literally buying them and putting them for sale the next day. It's like eBaying Jordans or something. Yeah. So there's this whole other market that's like degenerate traders who have just found another thing.
Yeah. And it's all part of the ecosystem, and I can say one thing, and I guarantee you there's going to be people who completely attack me and say that's crazy, that's not the way to do it. It depends on what your strategy is. If you're flipping, I don't think I don't have a problem with buyers flipping my work, because but I also like the fact that I've got other buyers who are holding it. I've got pieces that somebody bought for maybe £2,000 or £3,000 6 months ago, and they've been offered 30 or 40 or 50,000 for it recently, and they've declined. And I think, like, you're crazy. I would take that money, man. But and they don't. So for me, I like the fact that I've got collectors who are hodling my work and others who are flipping it, because that generates excitement. I think there's space for everybody. I think with regards to, again, there's two different ways. I think from a collector's perspective, you can hit that altcoin that just skyrockets and nobody knows about it. And you get lucky. You can buy the first piece that's been dropped by some artist, that nobody knows about. And, like Furiosis or some of these, younger artists are coming up who are exceptionally talented, and they've got like a lot of energy and a lot of skill and talent. And now they're getting a lot of backing, like Jason and Pomp coming through. So you can take a chance, or you can buy Bitcoin. You can invest in artists who like myself, or, like Hackatow or Pack, or, some newer ones coming on who have literally, 10, 15, 20 years of experience and the academic background. And that, that it's a sound investment, hopefully, because, we're in this for the long term. We didn't just kind of come into the space as hobbyists, and all of a sudden we're making a bunch of money and say, okay, now I'm interested in learning more and becoming a better artist. Like, this has been a lifelong, pursuit. So from the kind of the view of a collector now, I'd say probably, if you can, diversify. Try to buy some work by some of the bigger name artists, but at the same time, you want to keep this whole economy going as well, and investing in new artists and up and coming artists, and some of the bigger name artists who are coming in, like people. It takes a huge, massive kind of movement to keep the whole thing growing, and at the pace it's growing right now, it's just going to take more and more and more people. So I don't suggest it's just kind of one way. Try, invest, just spend as much money on NFTs as you possibly can. That's my advice.
Yeah. Only spend what you can afford to lose, right? The same disclaimer that we get with every. So I love that analogy. So you and a couple other guys are Bitcoin, and everyone else is a riskier investment in an altcoin.
Oh,
but that makes sense.
I mean,
unless the market implodes, your work will appreciate. I mean, it's at that point where we're seeing that's almost a foregone conclusion. So it's a proven asset. And I never thought about what you just said, which is like, probably like emotionally, you want people to hold your art, right? You want somebody to buy it and want to keep it forever, no matter what. But from a business perspective, it's the secondary market and that FOMO that's going to actually raise the prices of your future pieces.
Absolutely. Yeah. You need both. Definitely. And I love the fact that I do have, a couple buyers, big whales who literally are going, they love the work, and they're long-term investors. And, one guy saying, like, I want this, I'll give it to, I'll hand it down to my sons, when I'm not here. So, it's again, mind-boggling to even be talking to somebody who's buying my work in that way, and thinking about my work in that way, that this is like a generational investment. It's crazy.
It's awesome. So how do you suggest that somebody displays your work in an ideal manner? I buy an NFT by putting it on my TV. Do I need to buy a specific projector? Am I projecting an MP4 version of it for people to look at? Or is it the actual NFT that's being projected on my wall? Tell me how that works. I think that's a huge question mark for people who want to not just buy them, but actually display them.
I think that's something that I didn't even know when I first got into the space, is that when you're buying an NFT, you're buying a token. So it's not really the artwork. The image is the image. And I didn't understand. I didn't know what that was. I thought, okay, I've uploaded an image to, Super Rare or whatever, OpenSea. And so when somebody buys that, they're actually buying that image, but they're literally buying a token, the abstract representation of ownership of that digital thing. And so once I got my head around that, I thought, okay, now I understand this. So with, I guess, displaying it, again, it's what it is you're displaying a digital image that is represented by a token, that you own the token. So how you choose to display it is entirely up to you, whether you want to put it on your flat screen TV or your mural, which is basically another digital screen to showcase your NFTs on, your phone. Buy one of my prints, although I've taken the print side down for the time being just because I'm so busy. But then, if you have the physical representation of one of my paintings through a print or the painting itself, then you can scan it and you get the access to the augmented reality elements of it. The metaverse, so there's places like Somnium Space or CryptoVoxels or Decentraland, which is all really, really, really super cool, where you can actually walk into, and just see the work, whether it's on your phone, like CryptoVoxels, or on your desktop, or if you have got some, VR goggles, and you can literally go in and see things, like seeing my Picasso's wall painting, which is the size of a building. It's crazy. I think that's probably right now the best way to, besides seeing the physical painting of mine, if you can see it in the metaverse, in Somnium Space, a Museum of Crypto Art were the ones who bought the one-of-one Picasso's bowl. They got a few other of my pieces as well. They've got them in this spectacularly stunning. They just actually uploaded a video to kind of showcasing some of their work in these gallery spaces that they've got in Somnium Space. And it just blows my mind. It's like, I have no idea what's going to be happening in 5 years from now when things have progressed so far.
How much did they buy that NFT for, if you don't mind me asking?
That was $55,555.
So effective, and that's about what you sold the physical painting for as well, correct? 58, 57. Yeah. So that's
it's 55 for this.
So being an actual painter and artist, you effectively get to double dip on your artwork, which is an incredible, incredible thing. So that's really an interesting way to view NFTs for people who may not understand them. As being a non-fungible token, it's almost like it's not the painting you're buying, it's the provenance or the proof of ownership that is actually being transferred to you.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what a lot of people right now struggle to get their heads around. They think, well, why can't I just right-click save that JPEG image or that animation, and I own that? But you don't own that. You have that. You can check it out on your screen, but the person who owns the token that represents, like I said, it's an abstract understanding of ownership, and that's going to, how this is going to play out NFTs over the next 2, 3, 4, 8 years. It'll get to the point when it's just everybody knows what that means, and there's not going to be a discussion about it anymore.
Curious, as an artist, what do you think it is about scarcity, the feeling of owning the only one of something? Why do people care about the rare shoes or the rare art or whatever it is? What is deeply baked inside humans that make that of such value?
Probably two things. I think there's just the personal satisfaction of this is, it's like Gollum, and My Precious type thing. Yes. This is that kind of attitude. But then also the other side, the flip side is the status. It's that ego driven of, I own this, and everybody knows I own it. They can see it on the blockchain. There's, you go to Super Rare and you can see this piece is owned by this particular buyer. So yeah, I think it's two things. And everybody's different. Some people might literally be collecting. It's like they collect stamps. It's like, it's not the coolest thing in the world collecting stamps, but it's something that they do because they just genuinely love doing it. It's about the whole concept and the history and these kind of things. And then there's other people who collect things, high-end paintings, or that really is partly about investment, but a lot of it's about ego and status. It's like when you go to a commercial gallery and you buy a painting for, let's say, I don't know, here in Scotland, by a well-known artist that is going to be like £8,000, £9,000, £10,000. Why buy that painting when you get a print of it, most likely? Or you could go to IKEA and get just a random print for, why that painting by that artist?
Right.
Because it means something. It has, that artist has a name in Scotland. They're well known. The people in the circles you hang out with,
impressed.
They will impress. They walk in and they go like, oh, that's, I know that, that artist or that kind of thing. And it's funny because I've had this conversation many times before with back home where I grew up. It's very small town, working class, and there's still a lot of money, in the whether the village or the city that I kind of lived in for a little while. And I've got friends who got the business owners. They've got a ton of money, really, really successful businessmen. One of my best friends, he's got he's got all the toys, the beautiful cars. Just bought a Jag. He's got the trucks and the snowmobiles and the speedboats and the giant house, and the art that he has is just disgusting. It's like,
money doesn't give taste, right? I mean,
yeah. But I understand, my argument, my kind of the way I described that, or I got my head around it, was that it's very much here in the UK and in Europe. It's much more common practice to buy really nice artwork and put it up as that status kind of thing. Whereas, where I grew up, you're having a nice big truck, and you can lift up that hood and you can explain, you can talk about the engine to all your friends and you over the barbecue. And that's very much a status thing. That's where the status comes from. Whereas if my buddy just spent 20 grand on a painting and put it up on his wall, and his friends come in and he was like, check out this painting by so-and-so, I spent 20 grand on it. He'd just get ripped to pieces. Like, why would you spend 20 grand on a fucking painting?
Right.
So there's that status, that understanding of status and why you collect things, whether it's a expensive truck or an expensive painting. Is it a one-to-one or not?
So then I guess it begs the other question, as an artist, what is it like to let that one go?
I'm just getting to the point now in my career, so 12 years since I graduated, when I'm feeling like, oh man, I wish I didn't sell that. And every single exhibition that I've had, and usually it's been every year I've had a solo show since I graduated. There's always been 2 or 3 paintings that really, really were special for me. But the fact that I was an artist and somebody was going to buy it and I was going to get money for it, it is what it is. And you have to emotionally detach yourself from these particular works. But I'm getting to the point now where I have regrets. I shouldn't have gotten rid of that painting, but I had to. So I guess I'm in that position now where finally financially I can keep some of my works. And I think that's important as well, to be able to hold on. Who knows what's going to happen down the line if I'll have like a retrospective exhibition when I'm 60, and it's a lot easier to put works together that I own rather than trying to find out where they are around the world. I like the fact that people own my work, but there's definitely some that I wish they didn't get away.
So maybe there comes a point where you just paint for yourself.
Maybe. Yeah, I do but I like painting for people as well. Like I said, I just had I had these Picasso bowl prints, 21, limited edition 21, that went out and they sold very quickly. And now I'm starting to get all these pictures, DMs and videos of them being framed and put in that, these houses all around the world. And that's just an incredible feeling, and some really nice houses too. It's like, oh, that's quite a spectacular place. And that's a feeling that, if I only painted for myself, I would never have that feeling. So I like the fact that my work is being appreciated by people all around the world who I've never even met before.
So what's next? Obviously, it seems that we're in the infancy of this space and probably what you're doing here, but what are we going to see from you in the next couple of years?
Next year, couple of years.
I know I should probably ask next couple of weeks or months because I know how it is in this space. Next year's is like 50 years in the normal world, but yeah.
I've got a big project planned for next year. And again, like I said, because I just was completely overwhelmed and feeling overwhelmed, I've had to adjust things and push some things back. I've got a collaboration with PAC, which I'm really excited about. It was supposed to happen in November, but I had to push that back to sometime early next year just to give myself a bit of breathing space. The project that I've got happening next year is a 12 artist collaboration, and it's going to be on Nifty Gateway. We're going to have, most likely it's going to look, it was going to be like 1 drop every month, but that was just going to take up so much. My entire year would just be
the whole year. Yeah.
So we'll probably have 3 drops with 4 different artists. Very, very cool idea behind it. I can't list I'm not going to list all the artists, but some really big name artists in the space. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's also going to be a fundraising project as well. So 10% of all the sales off the top is going to go to a fund that is going to be distributed to other artists in the space. For people who apply for it, for kind of grants type thing. And there'll be themes and ideas that people are able to apply for this if they, as part of it's about collaboration, diversity, hope, future, innovation, different things. So I guess what the concept behind that was about, there's this toxicity in this space, and a lot of it's on Twitter, and it's really overwhelming at times. I wanted to try to bring something together that hopefully doesn't get ripped to pieces, that hopefully generates some good feelings and some positivity, and helps other artists in the space, gives back to the community. And, we'll see. So that's as far as I've got. 2021 is sorted out, and who knows what 2022 is going to bring. Crazy.
Fair enough.
That's funny. With Brexit and COVID and.
Yeah, I tweeted the Batman, and even in my limited experience there, it was like polarized, crazy comments about NFTs are trash. This isn't even art. Someone should have flushed their money down the toilet, to people who are like, I would have paid $20 million for this. It's crazy how like opposing the views. And I'm the latter. Like if I had, like, the thing blew my mind. I get it, and so
yeah.
I can definitely sympathize with the pain that you feel from the community in trying to put yourself out there in this world. So I commend you for that. And so where can everybody find you and keep up with you after this?
Twitter is obviously the best place. That's kind of where I go to. Instagram, I don't. Tyler Winklevoss found that out, that I don't check my Instagram at all. I've just started up my e-newsletter again, which I'll be using more often. So you can go to my website, go to my contact, and subscribe to my e-newsletter. And that will be a place, especially for buyers, collectors who are, and artists, if you want to find out more about what I'm doing, that'll be my kind of first update of different projects, different drops. Maybe if I'm going to open up my prints back up again, or NFTs, or I'm working on a new painting, that information will come out there first, and then it'll siphon through to Twitter later on.
Awesome. I guess my last question has to be, do you do commissions, and have you ever painted a wolf?
I actually have. Oh no, I think I threw it out.
Of course you did. Come on, man.
I had a painting of a wolf. I did it in college, and actually it was a really good painting, but I varnished it with shitty varnish, and it turned yellow. And it was like, I just saw it actually about maybe a month ago. I took it out of storage. Like, what happened to that? I would have given it to you.
I should have called you earlier. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I think it gives a lot of clarity to people in a space that just seems very confusing from the outside. I think just people don't get it. It takes like 10 times before it kind of clicks, right? So
I really hope that I didn't confuse your listeners even more, because like I said, I'm just some old guy who paints, and I'm trying to find my way around this space and not to offend too many people along the way. But it's definitely a crazy ride, and I really appreciate you inviting me on and listening to my ramble on. And cool.
Hey, I'm just an old guy who listens to old painters, right? So that's all I am too. So I'm right there with you. Well, thank you very much, and we'll have to follow up very soon.
Thanks very much, Scott. Appreciate it.